It's our privilege and honor to present to you and to our fellow countrymen the status of the action taken by the Department of Health with regards to the deficiencies raised by COA. Next slide, please. As clarified by COA, the observations and findings are the recommendations made by the auditors for the management of the Department of Health to address the observations and findings. These are part of the audit process, which allows the audited agency to comply with the recommendations and rectify any deficiencies. The report itself does not mention any findings by the auditors of funds lost to corruption. Next slide, please. As of today, out of the 13 deficiencies, 5 were already resolved, 3 were partially resolved, and the remaining 5 are currently being complied. Next slide, please. COA flagged that our transfers to PSDBM for the procurement of PPEs, testing kits, medical supplies, and other hospital equipment for COVID-19 response were not covered by Memorandum of Agreement. Non-attachment of MOA was coordinated and consulted with PSDBM, and it was agreed by the same that non-attachment of MOA has legal basis since the items procured were considered as commonly used supplies. GPPB Resolution number 03/2020. Constant coordination with the procurement agencies to ensure that needed supplies are delivered at the possible time. To date, a total of 31 billion worth of commodities was reported by DBM as delivered. Next slide. The unobligated allotment of 11.8 billion from Bayanihan 1 and 2, including foreign loans as of December 31, 2020, are composed of GOP fund of 7.1 billion and foreign loans of 4.7 billion. 5 billion pesos of the GOP fund was considered as continuing appropriations for the year 2021, of which 4.2 billion or 83% have been utilized as of June 30, 2021 for the payment for the salaries of our HRH emergency hired. Some were used to pay for benefits for our health workers, such as the SRA, and death and sickness compensation, procurement of needed medicines and medical supplies in line with the pandemic, while 510 million remains valid for utilization until December 31, 2021. As to the foreign assisted projects, reissuance of SARO from the DBM are to be requested to supplement the funding requirements in line with COVID response. Hindi po nasayang ang mga pondong to. Next slide, please. On the deficiencies in procurement, documents and procedures, this is partially resolved. 2.448 billion mentioned deficiencies was already addressed by the procurement service of the central office. For the remaining 2.52 billion, the DOH operating units concerned were given directives to immediately comply with the COA recommendations. Also, the DOH Internal Audit Service is currently conducting review of transactions pertaining to the Bayanihan 1 and 2 funds. Next slide. There are also donations in kind with a total of 1.4 billion, to which our government retained hospitals, specifically Jose Reyes Memorial Hospital, Tondo Medical Center, and San Lazaro Hospital, missed to submit summary report list of donations received as of December 31, 2020. To date, upon validation from these concerned hospitals, they were able to provide COA the required listings. Next slide, please. Around 275 million meal allowance were flagged by COA as unauthorized. In providing meal benefits, our health facilities had to be creative, especially as our healthcare workers bemoaned the provision of meals in the literal sense. Napapanisan sila ng pagkain, hindi nakakain sa tamang oras, at nasasayang lamang kung pagkain ang binibigay ng ating hospitals. The DOH sought the approval of the Office of the President to provide the meal benefits through other forms, and OP has listened and approved provision in cash equivalents. Hence, this COA observation must be considered as resolved. COA flagged that 74 million worth of medical equipment and supplies for COVID-19 response of various hospitals remain unutilized at the end of the year 2020. These observations were mostly resolved. While waiting for completion of COVID-19 wards, some equipment were used by other wards of the hospital. We believe that our hospitals should also be given leeway to adjust their operations kung saan po ang pangangailangan. Nonetheless, we have asked the concerned units to respond to this. COA also flagged that while the implementing units went through emergency procurement process, some deliveries were delayed, thereby negating the use of the method. However, these operating units acted fast, and we believe that the ensuing delay is beyond their control. However, we continue to remind them that they should strictly enforce delivery dates for such vital supplies and equipment from their suppliers. The foregoing COA findings are more of documentary issues. Some are already resolved, while others are ongoing compliance. We are in the public health service emergency situation. Thus, the Department of Health operating units compelled to this sort of action so as not to compromise the lives of the public. Nevertheless, the concerned operating units commit to comply with the COA recommendations on the submission of required supporting documents. That is all, Mr. President, of our COA report.